Living with shame and guilt and this tendency to play small, this tendency to write off your own emotions or even your own ideas and creativity, this tendency to shut your own voice down makes it difficult to show up and to really take life by both hands and to be yourself. This week, I want to talk a little bit about my own experiences with dealing with shame, anxiety, playing small, and really not liking myself. This is the second time that I've tried to record this video. And really, the first video I wanted to share was about the shifts that are occurring in the world. And when I tried to upload the video, it wouldn't work. It kept troubleshooting and telling me about the lack of space that I had, which was not true. I deleted photos, I deleted apps, I essentially cleaned out my phone and reset it, and still I had no space. And so I knew in that moment that this was not a technical issue, this was a spiritual issue, and spirit was trying to get my attention. And so I surrendered. I surrendered to the fact that I wasn't going to have an offering, a sharing on the platform on Sundays as I had promised the fellow gardeners that I would. This was a promise I made, and so I couldn't break it, and that created a lot of resistance and emotional turmoil within myself because I didn't want to disappoint not even you, but disappoint myself as I had so many other times in my life. In that moment, though, I had to realize that I wasn't disappointing myself. I was being asked to listen. I surrendered. Surrender is the ultimate sign of strength and the foundation for a spiritual life. Surrendering affirms that we are no longer willing to live in pain. It expresses a deep desire to transcend our struggles and transform our negative emotions. It commands a life beyond our egos, beyond that part of ourselves that is continually reminding us that we are separate, different, and alone. Surrendering allows us to return to our true nature and move effortlessly through the cosmic dance called life. It is a powerful statement that proclaims the perfect order of the universe. This is of the back end of a super full moon in Scorpio, and that lunar eclipse was so emotional for me. I have 3 planets in Scorpio, and so this experience with trying to fight with this video triggered some deeper emotional density and just hidden stuff that I'd hidden deep down, and hadn't really confronted and dissolved and released. And so on Sunday, I spent some time with myself. That's what I needed. I needed to be with me. I needed to listen to what was coming up. I needed to feel it, and at times feel it so much that I would cry and let it out. I was journaling and I was detoxing. As I'm listening, as the days unfold, and in my mind, I am going to simply listen. Once I've listened, I know the phone will allow me to re record and upload like nothing had ever happened. And I will just go with the video that I had recorded on the full moon last week. Still, I was not listening. And eventually I came to learn that one of the reasons why I was stopped in uploading that video is because I was wearing a mask when I recorded it. My subconscious mind, which I had programmed for so many years, was almost the one that was in control that day. It's not an easy thing showing up like this. I don't necessarily know who's on the other side, the receiving end of these videos. And there's an element of craziness to just sit here and think that I am worthy enough, or that I even know enough to share the things that I'm sharing and the things that I know and the things that I've experienced. And there's the teenager in me that carried wounds for so long and is afraid to be loved at, and is afraid to be truly seen, is afraid to be herself because there were times when being myself was too much, or the things that I spoke about were too bizarre, or I was too much love and I was too much joy and I was too much light. I was laughed at, and some of those scars remained within myself. And this is what I was understanding. This is what I was helping myself to release and to purge over the days. Up until the moment that I recorded, and I was still thinking I am going to be sharing on the shifts that are occurring, how they're affecting our bodies, how they're affecting, and I'm recording, and I can feel within me that it's not coming through me. I'm trying to let it come from my mind. And then I sat and put my hand on my heart, and I asked myself, what's up? And then I heard you doing it again. So in the middle of the recording, I was led to understand that in fact what I am speaking on, what I'm sharing about today, is the shame that we carry. We continue to carry if we don't dissolve the myth truths from our childhood and reconnect ourselves with our sentient nature, which is divine intelligence, with our true essence, right? Which is love. That's what we are. We are love. And of course, it's a process, but there is a part of us that remains untouched by all of the things that we experience here in this world. As the saying goes, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We aren't human beings having a spiritual experience. When we remember ourselves as spirit, we get beyond and above the guilt, the shame, the pain that keeps us in our small selves, that keeps us from fulfilling the dreams that we only know as true, and that break the cycle of us living in anxiety, living in the frequency of guilt, living in this energy of confusion and second guessing yourself, and almost erasing yourself from yourself to try and fit in, or to try and make sense. not to be judged, not to be seen as crazy. One of the memories from my childhood that really made an imprint in my subconscious mind and even stayed in my body for a long time was a comment that was made by my father in front of a group of his friends. We were visiting family friends and they were sitting as men, drinking and talking and laughing, and we were playing as children and walked into the room at some point. I'm not sure exactly what one of his friends had said, but one of the men was essentially complimenting me on just how smart I was. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said intuitive I am. That might not have been the word, but that's how I understand it as I recall in this moment. And my dad disputed what he said. He goes, no, no, no. This one is the stupid one. The other twin is the clever one. And I just remember the feeling that overcame me, physical feeling that overcame me. You know, when you feel like you have daggers coming out of your pores as you sweat, and my arms and hands went sweaty, and I almost felt faint from going from this place of really feeling so excited that someone was affirming me and seeing me, to just being snuffed out like that by these words from someone that I loved and that I really, really respected and obviously wanted them to be proud of me. I can almost feel that little girl inside, being the one who's speaking. But I can almost remember how that broke me and how it stayed with me. I didn't ever say to anyone else at that moment because I was afraid that maybe it was true and I didn't want that to be echoed by anybody else. It just really makes you think how important it is for us to be aware of our words. Words are spells. They can either build or they can destroy. And I just have to think about children and how sensitive they are and how our words continue to ring into their futures. Clearly, my self-esteem, my self-worth, my self-perceptions, and my self-value is something that I've come here to work through in this life. I understand that now because I experienced so many other variants of that from so-called friends and things of that nature that I believed I was stupid for such a very, very long time. I've shared a little bit about this before, but what I want to speak on some more is how this accumulates and becomes a false self. You begin to believe that you are these things that other people say, so much so that you start to become those things. For many years, I struggled to express myself. I couldn't really express myself. I come from a family that is very, very small, and we also aren't a family, especially when I was younger, that spoke. We didn't really talk. And it was only in my adulthood that I realized that, oh, I didn't actually have the developmental tools to hold conversations, to be in relationship, to know what that looks like, to know what it looks like to have an emotional moment and be able to unpack and share that and be held with and by someone else. That wasn't really my experience. Of course, as a younger person, you're more able to be human, right? We just come in with those skills. It is only later on in our adult lives that our experience can, and it's quite ironic, but that our experiences catch up with us, and then we start to kind of glitch from what we experienced when we were younger. I became severely self-conscious, and that self-consciousness developed into anxiety, and I was constantly anxious because I was worried about, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? When I spoke, I would speak and then I would not even finish my sentences. My sentences would trail off, and I would kind of, speak within my mouth, inside my mouth, because I didn't really think that anyone wanted to hear me. I didn't really think that anyone was interested, which I think is also why that experience, that day with my father and these men and the other children who were watching this was so impactful to me, is because there was someone who was affirming me and who was seeing me. And then in that moment, it was kind of like, inverted. And so that became the experience that I just moved from there. It's interesting to be sharing this, and to also be sharing it without having had planned to. And of course, I will share what I had initially intended to share as the weeks go by when it's appropriate. But part of what we're moving into is being more and more ourselves in this world. We've come here to experience ourselves. And the only real way we can have a fulfilling and deep and authentic and abundant, joyful life, ecstatic life, is by us actually embodying and being our true selves. Because doing anything else isn't true. As we reawaken to who we really are and begin to find the courage day by day, step by step, the courage of being ourselves, the courage of saying what you mean, the courage to say no when you want to say no, the courage of choosing what you really would rather do. The more that we call our lost parts back, call them back and bring them back into our body as our own, and own ourselves and own our lives, the less anxiety we have, the less addiction we struggle with, the less we lie to ourselves, the less we forsake ourselves, the less we find ourselves in the rooms that we don't want to be in, and the less that we betray ourselves. Living with anxiety is terrible. It's a horrible thing, and those with anxiety know. And anxiety is this thing that just lives here, and it blocks our life force from actually giving us life, right? Our solar plexus, which is the seat of our power, suffers. And inadvertently, when our solar plexus is blocked, our heart chakra gets blocked. And so we block and close love off. We guard our hearts, and by so doing, we lose our voice, right? And then our throat chakra gets blocked. I hope it's okay that I'm just flowing from my heart today, because that's where we're moving towards. We don't have to be curated all the time. We don't need to know all the answers all the time. Life is spontaneous. That's really what it is. And all we can do is set our intentions, share our words and our prayers with the divine, with the Creator, with Allah and surrender the rest. Ours is to reclaim presence within ourselves. And the more that I can say that, oh, when this thing happened to me, this is how it made me feel, this is how it affected me, and these are the kind of traits I developed because of that, the more I can then reprogram those felt patterns and reclaim my true pattern, right? Yeah, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to know the answers. All we need to be is to be alive in this moment, to be truly awake and present within it. Worrying about the future and being fixated on the past keeps us and robs us of this very moment and only adds and creates more anxiety, more guilt, more shame. You are a divine being in this moment, despite everything else. What you have, what you don't have, what you want that hasn't arrived yet, what you've done, what you regret. In this very moment, your being is beautiful, it is complete, it is magical, and that's all you need to know. And in the moments where you start to become anxious, come back to yourself and ask yourself, oh, wait, is it true what you're thinking? Mm. Just ask your being, your soul, tell me, who are you? What do you want me to know in this moment? And just listen. Running ahead of ourselves almost gets us tripped up, right? And creates this this terror, you know? It's like this baseline, this base frequency of terror that lives just under the breath. But the more that we remember that all is perfect, beyond the gender, beyond my race, beyond my nationality, beyond my bank account, I am perfect. The anxiety begins to go away. Sure, we've been through a lot, just as humanity, and the way that this place has been set up, the way that it's created competition amongst us, and these illusions that we need to look a certain way to be deemed beautiful, or that we have to live in certain areas to appear as successful. Even the school systems creates falsities that separate us. My sharing today comes from a place that says all of that doesn't matter. You know, you do. Acknowledge what you have been through and what you have survived, and how you can begin to reclaim who you really are by looking at the lie. Mm-mm. No, 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 no. This isn't true. This isn't true about me, and I'm going to put it down now. and put it down. Let it go. Release it. And releasing might mean that you cry, maybe you rage into a pillow and you journal, but at least you're saying you're putting it down. You don't have to live with anxiety. You don't have to live with self-loathing. It's a journey, it's a process, right? But it takes one decision to say, you know what, I'm going to show up for myself. In the moments that I feel anxious, I'm not going to abandon myself. I'm going to take a moment to ask, what's up? What is it? What's up? Okay. But is it true? I'm going to be loving towards myself. Yeah. We're learning to be more real is, I suppose, the theme of this little tangent I've just gone on that was meant to be. I try to force something else, but look what happens. Is another great lesson, I guess. Look what happens when we force what isn't, right? We block what is naturally trying to come out of us. No, I want it this way, I want it this way. That's the mind, right? This distorted masculine. But to come back into the heart and to embrace the feminine and say, okay, what is true for me in this moment? What would you have me do? I want to share something with you as I come to a close. I think that I'm complete. Sometimes, like I said, things are not perfect. I'm not entirely sure how this little sharing is going to turn out at the end once I've edited it. But I know that right now I feel so much relief. I can actually feel it on my body and my shoulders. Relief from having showed up authentically and followed what literally was coming out of me. Allowed that to flow through. Love yourself with the most gentle internal voice. Love yourself out of your anxiety. Love yourself out of the shame. Love yourself out of the self-loathing. Love yourself out of the guilt. You want it all. Many of us share these things secretly within us. We hide them. And there's no shame in any of that. We're human. And we're only trying to find our way back home. So this is what I like to call literature as oracle. I'm sometimes shown a book, or I go and choose a book and I'm given a number, and so this one was 11. And 11 lands on a beautiful poem. And this is from the book Anamkara by John O'Donoghue, and it is spiritual wisdom from the Celtic world. Beanacht for Josie. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the grey window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you and meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the karach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may they come across the waters, a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so, may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind you. My name is Vuyi, and this is the secret garden to more unraveling, to more authenticity, to more light, to more spirit. If you struggle with anxiety and carry shame and guilt, I want to send you love today and tell you that you are not alone, and also remind you that you are bigger than everything that you have been through. You won't stay the same if you choose not to. I am with you. Thank you for hanging out. If you would like to work with me, the details are in the show notes, and I am sending you much love. Love, Ashe, Aho, Namaste, Inshallah. Tokos.